All right, everybody, it's Tom with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with Sam Drysdale. Would you like to give a little intro about yourself?
How's it going? Yeah, my name's Sam Drysdale. I'm a Toronto-based singer-songwriter and an artist. And yeah, I'm located in Toronto, and I've been at this for a little bit of time now. And we got a new record coming out fairly soon. So thank you for having me on.
That's the main reason we're here to talk to you today. Is about Testarossa. I believe it's coming out on the 28th.
Yeah, coming out January 28th. So 2 weeks today, actually.
Nice. We'll probably be releasing this on the same day.
Oh, wow, nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's coming out today.
Yeah. So for those who haven't had the pleasure of listening to you, how would you describe your music to new listeners?
My sound is very much, I mean, fundamentally, I always say it's pop music. Like I'm not ashamed at all to sort of equate myself with pop music. I've grown up loving pop music and sort of investigating what it is that ends up topping the charts and making its way into sort of into the mainstream. But there's a ton of blues influence as well, lots of blues and R&B influence. I'm a guitar player, so grew up listening to a lot of Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd, John Mayer. So there's a lot of like R&B sort of blues influence as well. It's alternative pop would probably be the best way to put it.
Yeah, I was listening to some of the stuff earlier, and I definitely see the blues and that like within everything.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's not like it's not bubblegum pop. It's a little bit more alternative. It's a little more rough around the edges. I used to say that if you like took Shawn Mendes and dunked him by his ankles in like a barrel of bourbon, that would probably be what you'd be getting.
All right. That's a good way to describe it for sure.
Yeah.
So I have a team of writers that help me come up with information, and my one writer, Beth, she actually grew up in Guelph, which I believe is where you're originally
That's where
from.
I was born, yeah. Or actually, I wasn't born there, but I was raised there.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
How did coming up in Guelph with musicians and everything around there, how did that inspire you?
You know what, man? It really didn't, and I had to get out. I had to like. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with Guelph, Ontario, but it's safe, and one of the most dangerous things you can be as a musician is safe and comfortable, and you need to get out of your comfort zone. And so I moved to Los Angeles when I was 18, like right out of high school. I was lucky enough to go to school there. I went to the Musicians Institute, which is right at the corner of Hollywood and Highland Boulevard, so like right in the center of the whole sort of the whole craziness that is LA. And yeah, I had to get out and go and sort of spread the wings and go and put myself in a new environment. And yeah, I mean, Guelph was great, but it was safe, and you can't have safe.
Yeah, there's no need for safe. Why not experience life a little bit differently?
Yeah, absolutely, you need to. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of things to write about, and everyday life. It's not that it's not inspiring, but it's not always the most inspiring all of the time. And as an artist, it's really important, I think, to get out. It took me a long time to sort of find out who I was. Even throughout the last record that I put out, I don't think I really knew who I was as an artist and what I wanted to say and how I wanted to be coming across visually and sonically. And that just takes life. That takes life in new areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's definitely, you can always see growth as you're going. So we see that from your first release to the new stuff coming out now for sure.
I appreciate it.
So your music subjects are usually pretty raw and personal. Do you draw a lot of personal things with your songs?
Yeah, I try to. I mean, with this record, I wanted to give myself a little bit of freedom to be, to just be fun at times. Like on the last record, I didn't really. I don't want to say it was bluesier, but it was a little bit darker. And on this record, I wanted to like write some up tempo stuff and some stuff where people could feel a little bit, just a little bit more lighthearted and have a song that people can dance to. You can only play so many sad songs in a row at a show before you just want to play a song that people can dance to. And I really am a lyric guy. Like I focus on lyrics a lot as a listener, which that might make me a bit of an oddball, because I think a lot of people, melody is sort of the thing that most people gravitate towards through the heaviest. But for me, it's always been lyrics. So I knew that I was going to write pop music, and I knew I wanted to write pop music, I wasn't going to want to compromise anything lyrically, and I wasn't going to want to let anything go. So making sure that I was working with people that were really interested in writing lyrics that were, foundationally solid and rich was super important to me. And that has to come from drawing on personal experience in order to write stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm myself. I very much love the story of a song. There's the what's behind it. So I feel you on that.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's the best songwriters in the world. They have the weapons in their sort of toolkit to make amazing melodies, but then they also can write phenomenal lyrics. And the best songwriters across time. So people like Sam Cooke, Dolly Parton, Marshall Mathers, like these are people that have like a really, really fine tune ability and a fine tune. It's a craft. Lyric writing is a craft. And I got a ton of respect for who, people that are the best at it.
Yeah, there's definitely some pioneers out there for that. We actually just interviewed Teddy Richards yesterday, which is Aretha Franklin's son. So
I was about to say Aretha Franklin. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one.
So the stories he had for some things were pretty fun too.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that really is poignant about your career and everything is your style in your music videos. They're very, it kind of has like a 90s indie feel to it. Is that something you kind of strive for in some of them, or?
I appreciate that, man. You know what? For this project, I really wanted to build out a whole world. And even if I had to build out a whole world on a small budget, sometimes it was all about how can I be as consistent as possible throughout the whole project. And everything down to, the way that things look aesthetically with the clothes that I'm choosing to wear, the way that I look, the film that we're choosing to shoot on. Those are all very articulate decisions. Like they've been made carefully, and we created a lookbook before we went into this whole project of how we want everything to work. And it's kind of been the most powerful tool for me as an artist, because I just have this, I think I had it here for a second, but I have this little lookbook, and it basically just has everything about sort of the mission statement of this particular project and what Testarossa means and what we want to say with the music videos we're creating, and anything pertaining to the aesthetic of the project. It has to work. I can just look at this lookbook and say, does it vibe with this? If it doesn't vibe with this, we don't do it. And as far as the 90s sort of influence, that's definitely there. And I've always loved, Tarantino films and that sort of the late 80s film look. We kind of got into film because my main creative director and sort of like creative partner, Helder Matthias, had a Super 8 camera. And Super 8's not actually that expensive to shoot on. Like it's not cheap, but it always looks good. And we needed that. We needed to be able to make stuff that always looked good. And even if our creative ideas weren't great aesthetically on camera, things just looked amazing on 8mm film. So that's sort of why we leaned into shooting stuff on film.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, you can see it. Look, it has a nice feel to it. I like that type of feel for sure.
No, appreciate it.
So talking about Testarossa a bit, we have the first 2 singles out now. How do those singles describe the album or the whole project?
Well, so we have 2 singles, and then we just had a third one come out just a few days ago, not too long ago. We had the third single, Nothing on You, come out. And the way that this project is shaping up, now the title has been sort of announced. I mean, the whole project really is about a relationship. Almost every song I've ever written has been about the same person. It's been about the same relationship. And for this particular project, there's a couple songs on like Shitty Famous, our second single, which is that was just a fun song that I wanted to write. I wanted to give myself permission to write a song that didn't have a lot of lyrical weight to it and could just be like a fun little bop. But the other 2 songs that we have out, Dream About a Girl, the first single, and Nothing on You, it's all gearing up to this sort of inevitable comparison between what Testarossa means is it means redhead. It translates to redhead in Italian. And I got that idea for a project because I loved the 90s supercar named the Testarossa by Ferrari. And I was doing some reading on Enzo Ferrari, and I had heard a quote from him that if you ask a child to draw a car, they'll draw it red. And that to me was like, that one little quote basically brought the whole idea of Ferrari down to one little thing. I could tell that he, just the color red, that's the entire brand. That's everything about him. And I love that he chose that. That's sort of one of the most famous cars they ever launched. I love the comparison between the beauty of this car and the beauty of a woman. And these first two songs, Dream About a Girl, Nothing on You, Shitty Famous less so, but we still have the Ferrari in the music video just to give a little homage to the whole sort of Ferrari inspired theme. The whole thing is about a woman's beauty. I mean, that's really the fundamental sort of axiom that it all rests on. And that's how those two songs sort of tie into that. But we want to continue to sort of evolve the world, obviously, as we get the record out.
And I definitely think you can feel that just in the songs, like you have that sense of it. So it's coming off well to people, I would imagine, at this point.
I appreciate it. I hope it comes off even more clearly. I mean, the idea is to have the story tell itself and me not have to explain it. So I hope it comes off even more clearly as the record progresses, and as once this interview comes out, obviously the project will be out, and we'll continue to to work on the visuals and just create that whole sort of landscape, that whole world.
Nice. So this being your sophomore release, we talked earlier about kind of how you were changing things a little bit as you were going. Is there something specific you changed or that changed as you were making this one compared to the first one?
With this EP, for me, I wanted it to feel like we could look at the release afterwards and really believe that we had everything planned out from the beginning. Like, I wanted for someone that that didn't know me to be able to look at the release and just say like, wow, like there was a real plan in place there. And it really looks like it's like a product launch. And it's not, I don't feel bad about saying, a lot of people don't like thinking about music and art as a product, but it's cool to say it like that, I think, because some of my favorite art, you can tell how well thought through it was from the beginning. You can tell when you watch a Quentin Tarantino film. You can tell when you watch a Martin Scorsese film. You can tell when when you buy some red bottoms by Louis Vuitton, or when you see that cherry red by Ferrari. Like, I wanted there to be a real brand and a real sort of world that was invented around this release, and that's a lot more conscious artistic effort than I put into the last one. The last one, I wrote some songs, put them onto a CD, and put them out to the world. And with this, I wanted to be not a musician, but an artist.
Oh, that's it shows your growth too. That's definitely a nice thing to see.
Thank you.
So do you have any, what's your hopes for this release when it comes out?
My hopes for this release is I really want this release to be able to propel us into a situation where we can start working with a bigger team. I very consciously really narrowed in my team for this. Like, I've been doing a lot of the stuff myself, pretty much all the graphic design, music video treatments, music production. It's all happening between myself and my main creative director, Helder, Mr. Helder Matthias. And I would like for this project to sort of prove to potential future partners, investors, what have you, that we're capable of putting together a full release. And I want to meet more people. I want to meet more fans. I want to play music for more people. I want to get out on the road and play some festivals and start getting back to a little bit of what real life and real live music is like.
I think everyone's probably feeling that right now.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So you had a couple collaborations on this project. Can you tell us about the experience working with these different people?
So we've got the main collaboration, like the main three sort of collaborators on the project as a whole, are a guy named Joey Viscazzi, who just goes by Viscazzi. He's out of Los Angeles. Andrew Martino, Marty, here in Toronto, and then my sort of number one co-writer, like really the only person I trust to co-write songs with, Miss Alexandra Soumalias, who goes by Ali Sue, who I've said multiple times, I think is probably the best top liner in Canada, meaning someone that writes amazing lyrics and melody. And We also have a secret feature on the record, which I guess I don't have to be secretive about it. But we have Toronto rapper Notify is going to be putting a verse onto Testarossa, which you guys will be hearing because it'll be coming out today. But that hasn't been announced yet, and he's a guy that I've had a lot of respect for a while. We're sort of signed under the similar like a similar group, Slate Music, that handles us and helps us sort of make art. And we got to talking, and I'm a big fan of his music, so he's on it. And all those people that I just mentioned, they're all phenomenal. And I've worked with Ali and Marty for a while now, at least 2.5, 3 years, and they're all the best at what they do. They're all really, really sound, and they've all had fairly illustrious careers so far. So it's a privilege.
No, that's exciting, and like we got an early chance to listen to a lot of the songs, so I definitely feel it's going to be a good release for sure.
I'm hoping, man. Fingers crossed. You never know, though, but fingers crossed.
Well, I think right now, the way this day and age is with social media and everything, people are just absorbing everything they can. So I feel, even though it might, it could be not as great as you're hoping, it's definitely going to be received well by your core group of fans.
No, I think so. And that's the goal. But really the goal for me is just to be able to look back on it and know that, like, we didn't make any compromises. We worked as hard as we possibly could to create something that that has a real life to it. And it's just nice to do things your way. And I haven't always done that. I haven't always had the courage to step up and say, like, no, we're going to do this way. And if it fails, it fails. It's on me. It is what it is. I can stomach that. But as an artist, I think after being in it now for as long as I've been in it, the one thing I have learned wholeheartedly is, like, you got to trust your gut. You got to do the things that make you feel sound artistically and make you feel whole. And we haven't made a single misstep so far on this project. So that really excites me.
No, that's good to hear. And I've been hearing that a lot more with people saying, trust yourself and make sure you're being true to yourself with everything, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to do the contrary right now, man. It's very easy to go out there and hunt. It's not very easy. I shouldn't say it's very easy, because it takes a lot of work, but you can go out there, you can get views, you can get quick turnaround on music, you can get quick turnaround on fan base. But I still think there's a lot of room and a lot of hunger for artists that are trying to move the needle artistically and really trying to sort of break down boundaries and do things differently.
Mm-hmm. My camera just cut out for a second. There we go.
No problem.
I got to fix the settings on this at some point. Okay, so we're just talking about the social media and everything. How do you feel the social media landscape has affected music recently?
Man, it's tough to be anything other than a little pessimistic about it, to be honest. But overall, it's a good thing that good musicians that are writing amazing music can get heard. And I'm not personally the biggest. I really have a lot of respect for TikTok. I do. I have a ton of respect for TikTok. I think it's really cool. And it's hard. A lot of artists, I think, are having a tough time with it. Myself included, because doesn't come naturally to me. It's like, I always ask myself if Johnny Cash would have been on TikTok, and it's like, I don't know, but I love what they're doing for artists. I love the platform that they're giving. And I love how, like, findable new amazing music that's just being made in a little bedroom studio, how accessible it is. I think that's really, really, really cool. And that platform is propagating and perpetuating all this new music. So social media is tough, man. A lot of pressure, a lot of looking in the mirror, comparing yourself to other people, but you got to get to a point where that's not weighing you down all the time. It weighed me down for a little while, and I just got bored of it. Like, I got bored of feeling sad about it. And now it's more just like, I'm going to do what I do. And if you mess with what we're doing, then come along for the ride. And if you want to be a part of it, then, like, we got nothing but love and hugs for anyone that wants to come out to a show and get involved. But I'm not going to kill myself every single day of the week trying to set up ring lights and make things look, totally pristine for for an Instagram post.
Yeah, I have that same feeling, kind of from a different perspective of the other media side of thing. Like, I'm primarily a photographer, so
Yeah.
trying to get that perfect picture and make sure everything looks good and the right times for everything. It can be draining for sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people. I mean, the one thing that artists I think are having a tough time with right now is that the social media landscape and being so globally connected to everyone, it's made a lot of us artists, I think, have to realize that we're just not as special as we thought. There are a ton of people making amazing music, a ton of people making, taking amazing photographs. And the truth of the matter is that in the old, the old guard, the old way of doing things, a lot of it was luck. A lot of it was whether or not you knew the right people at the right time, and you had something amazing that they could help you promote. But now everyone's doing amazing stuff all the time. Like, there's amazing art everywhere, and you got to work really hard if you want your art to sort of be at the top of the pile and be at the top of people's focus. So it's good to encourage hard work in art. I think that's overall a good thing, even though it can be incredibly stressful.
Yeah, for sure. How have you been handling the pandemic and trying to be creative and everything?
It's tough, man. It's tough. One thing I think I'm lucky with is that are grateful for is I have a nice home studio here. I just moved into a new condo that has like a little private studio, which is great. A lot of my creative energies are done. Like I do a lot of work in Photoshop and starting to use Premiere Pro a lot to do video editing and things like that. I put a lot of creativity into visual mediums, and I'm still able to do that on just working in my studio on my computer. So I haven't felt it maybe as heavy as I could if I was exclusively just trying to write songs every single day. Like, if I have a creative, if I have a creative moment that I need to make happen, I don't always channel it into writing a song. I can channel it into making the album artwork for a song, and that really helps me to have that outlet and to not feel like I'm super constrained. That said, overall, the pandemic has done nothing but hurt artists, and it's probably done nothing but hurt me. It's given me a chance to reevaluate some things, but for the most part, I mean, it's really tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I think that probably speaks for a lot of people. I know Hidden Beats, for instance, never did interviews before the pandemic. We actually
Ah,
started all this process at the start of the pandemic, and it's taken off pretty nicely. And it's actually really interesting because I get to talk to people like yourself and hear stories, and you get a little bit more insight on the artists that are actually out there, which has been pretty good.
yeah, nice. Well, it's good. It's nice that you're doing it, man.
It took a little bit to figure out how to transition and figure everything out. Right now, actually, the setup I'm on, you're the second person I've ever had on this setup. So
Oh, amazing.
new mic, new everything, trying to get all that sorted out. That was a bit of a nightmare, but
No, good for you, man. It sounds great. Everything sounds good.
well, yeah, this was actually the second mic. The first one was defective somehow and cost me a fortune to
Yeah.
try to figure out and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, I've been there, man. Been there in a couple studios, spending a fortune on things that I accidentally break or was broken before I even bought it. So I
Hmm.
feel you.
One of the things I always like to ask when I'm doing an interview with someone is about your inspirations with music and as you grew up to now.
Man, I had two musical parents. My mom was in a band until she was like 31, I think. She was in a country band that toured around, and then she transitioned into being a radio disc jockey, actually. So she was on the radio for about 20 years, and still is. Actually, I guess she still is. Her station's online now. But so she was big musical influence. My dad's a guitar player and a singer. He plays in a band he plays in a band that have gigs every month, and he's does it more as a hobby, but both my parents were very musical, and initially I kind of rejected music. They wanted me in piano lessons and things of that nature, and then I kind of rejected it. And then when I was like 16, 17, I started listening to Pink Floyd a lot more. I started listening to like a lot of Neil Young and old sort of more folk singer songwritery stuff. I really got drawn into music by the blues, man. Like Jimi Hendrix and old, like old like blues, like Sam Cooke and those guys. To me, I could just tell when they were singing that they were tapping into something that was like magical, like real, you know, even like in the early days of rock and roll, you could hear it when, you know, the Rolling Stones were coming up, when the Beatles were coming up. Like they just had this badass disdain for everything that was going on around them. And you know, the blues is what inspires me, like heartache and pain and the come up. Like those narratives have always been a lot more inspiring to me. And when I hear people convey them really beautifully through music, when I started to sort of appreciate that part of music, that was when I got hooked. And that was when I was like, 16, 17. I think I bought my first guitar when I was 16, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm very much a fan of some of those people you mentioned. So I understand what you're saying about that feeling when they were playing.
Well, there's so it's kind of been a reoccurring mission statement, like throughout all of music. Like whatever genre was sort of best tapping into a new sound that was out of frustration or disdain at the time. Like, you know, whether it was rock and roll in the late 60s, early 70s, transitioned into, or you know, before that it was blues, you know, real blues. And then it was rock and roll. And then now we have hip hop, you know, and the transition's always been people coming out of struggle and people coming out of hardship and pain. And it's a really convincing way to make music. And there's no better time to make music and as a musician and when someone's just kind of hurt you. And I get why it's so big. You know, I get why that's what creates some of the best songs.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone now that you look up to, or you strive to be a little bit more like?
Yeah, well, I really like. I mean, John Mayer is always going to be a huge hero of mine. I've loved him for a very long time. What's funny is I really didn't like his music when I first started listening to him. I used to sort of equate his music to like the orthodontist, and then I listened to Continuum, and then I was like totally out of control from there. Things just spiraled, and I realized that he's probably definitely one of the greatest modern songwriters, you know, that I'm coming across on a daily basis. He's an absolute killer musician as well. So he's been always a huge inspiration for me. You know, being a Toronto boy right now, I like love the Toronto music scene. I'm really passionate about how many people are coming out of this city, and like really breaking down the US border and sort of finding international success, whether that be you know, Alessia Cara, Jesse Reyes, Tory Lanez, The Weeknd, Drake, like Shawn Mendes, you know, the list goes on and on. Like Toronto is just on this rampage right now. And we have like a chokehold, it feels like, on the Hot 100. And all those artists are like, you know, incredible. I love The Weeknd. I wasn't as familiar with him until he put out Kissland. And when he put out Kissland, I went back in, listened to the trilogy, and was just blown away by his willingness to ignore every rule. Like I loved that he didn't follow any rules that were sort of set out by the industry, wasn't on social media, you know, didn't show his face. He just put out killer music with narratives that people hadn't heard before. And his commitment to creative vision is like unparalleled in the music industry right now. And I think that that's super important. And I got a lot of love for him. I got a lot of love for like everything his camp does.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually same idea with John Mayer. I wasn't really a fan, and then kind of I don't know what happened, what triggered it, but then I was like, oh, okay, damn.
It's dude, he's like the easiest guy. I mean, it's a shame when I hear people you bring up John sometimes, and they just have such skewed visions of who he is, and you spend enough time listening to it, you know, to him in interviews, you spend enough time listening to his music and digesting his lyrics and listening to him play the guitar and just like the things he can do with a Stratocaster. It's like there's no way you can't have some level of appreciation for what he does musically. And one of the most defining live performances I've ever seen was I loved watching him play. I think he was Death of Autotune that he was playing with Jay-Z, and I think it was in New York maybe. And I remember watching him just play guitar for Jay-Z, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is fucking badass. And that was a really big defining performance for me that I got to watch. I was like, all right, I want to do what that guy's doing.
No, and that understandable for sure.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you were given when you were coming up that kind of you held fast to?
You just think about that, man. Advice is tough. I think everyone's got little idioms they could probably just rattle off if they didn't give it, but if I was giving myself advice and it was advice I'd already been given, it's probably like, my dad used to tell me the idle mind is the devil's playground. And as an artist, I think that's a really, for me personally anyways, you got to keep yourself busy. Like this pandemic, it really could have eaten me if I let it. And it's you got to keep yourself sort of focused on a vision and accomplishing small goals. Like it's nice to say you want to play the ACC, which is now the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. It's nice I just aged myself there, but it's nice to say I want to play that venue one day. I want to play the Budweiser stage one day. I want to sell 10,000 records a week, or I want to have 100,000 Instagram followers. But really appreciating like being on that journey, as cliche as it sounds, and like taking pride in what you're doing, like taking real genuine pride. It took me a long time to have the courage to just say, like, these are where my roots are. This is what I want to make. This is the kind of artist I want to be. Once you finally figure that out, it's really just a matter of like finding out who you are as a person and being patient with that process. Like, so be patient was a bit of advice I heard a lot. And it's one I would tell myself again, because you do end up at a place where you know who you are, you know what you want to do. And once you get there, it's like the chains are off, you can just start throwing punches any which way and they'll all hit something.
Nice. Yeah. And ask everyone that same question. And you're right. There is a lot of things people could say, but there's a couple standards that kind of really ring true to a lot of people, and be patient is pretty good.
There's a ton of times where I've watched interviews with larger artists and they all say the same thing. And I'm always like, oh, that's just like kind of rattled off, easy line from a publicist or something. But then once you get into it, it's like a lot of them, they say the same thing because it's true. Like, be true to yourself, be honest with yourself, be really honest with the level of effort you're putting into your work. And if you're not putting enough in, then you might need to dial things up a little bit. And you have to. It's a competitive world out there musically right now. You got to be willing to like grind and get a little bloody. And yeah, it's tough grind.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in 2022?
I'm looking forward to playing a huge fucking release show for this project, like throwing a big party. But pre-pandemic, that's what we did. We threw big parties, like my friends and I love a good party. Like, there's nothing better in my opinion than a shutdown bar, a big house party. Like, to me, that's some of my favorite memories of all time are with my best friends, people that I love in environments like that. And I think that we're going to prepare a live show to accompany the release of this project that we just want to burn the whole place down. And nice. I'm looking very forward to that. And I'm looking forward to putting out more music, maybe even some more music beyond just Testarossa. We'll have to see. But I think we're in a good spot right now, and I just want to keep moving forward, building momentum and building out a team that can really help.
Mm-hmm. And we'd obviously love to see a live show. I got one of my team in Toronto actually, so hopefully if something comes up, I can get them out to check it out. Of course.
No, absolutely. We'll send you some tickets.
Nice. One of the questions I always like to ask. Oh, it looks like your phone cut out there for a sec. There we go.
We're back.
Yeah. One of the questions I always like to ask is there something that you wish was asked more about you that people don't know in interviews?
That's a very good question. That's a very good interview question, because what's funny is now I'll probably struggle to remember it, but as you always think to yourself, if you're in our sense, do interviews, you're like, man, what do I want to answer? Like, what do I want someone to ask me? That's actually no one's ever asked me that before, and that's a very good question. And you know what? Now that you put me on the spot, I can't even think of something. I can't think of something genuine. I mean, I really appreciate when people ask, questions about things that genuinely inspire you beyond just, who were your favorite artists growing up, but like, what are things that really inspire you, or what are things that really help you get through tough times? I mean, those questions are always, they're good, and they allow you to be personal. But what I can't think of anything beyond that right now. I'm sure 5 minutes after this interview concludes, I will have a question that I wish I was asked.
I mean, we can always edit and cut that in too if we need to.
Yeah. That's the day and age we're in, man. We can make anything look like it happened.
Mm-hmm. I like that question, because myself, I'm not necessarily the most creative person sometimes when looking up. That's why I have writers. I don't know how to look up questions the greatest, and I'm not the best at that. So it's always interesting seeing that other side and asking people that question, because they're always like, wait a minute. Yeah.
No, then it is a good question, and it's one that was actually so good I wasn't prepared for it. But like given some more time, I think that that's a good question to ask, and it means you really care. So I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely try to make these real personable and I want to know more about you. That's the idea. I can look up your music videos, I can listen to your music and everything, but we're here talking to you and understanding you as a person and getting in depth feelings about who you are. So we try to do that every time.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, man.
I don't have much else for you. One other question I always like to ask too, is there something on your go-to playlist that people would be surprised that you have on there?
Man, I've been listening to a lot of Doja Cat lately, and you would think that someone like me, that looks like me, I pretty much only wear black clothes, got some jewelry, and like, a little bit rough around the edges. I think that Doja Cat's nasty, and I have just gotten into her in the last like 2 weeks, and I think that her songwriting ability is like absolutely disgusting. She's really, really, really good. And the last couple of days, I've been working on this treatment for a new music video that will probably be announced by the time this comes out. But I've been listening to some Doja Cat, and she crushes.
Yeah, so I found her recently too, actually, through there's like an interview I watched, and they were talking about her, and I was like, well, I'll check this person out and see. And
people might be surprised to hear that Sam Drysdale likes Doja Cat, but I'm like, man, I love like a lot of those. I used to love playing. Some of my favorite covers to play are like Ariana Grande covers on the acoustic guitar. Like I love taking songs that people might not associate with me and flipping them around. And so yeah, I mean, some of those like female super pop killers, like I love them. I think they're amazing. I think they're like incredibly talented. And I think it's awful that people have like this poor view of like sort of more bubblegum pop music, because let me tell you, in this game, the hardest music to write, it's not the sad bluesy stuff. Like it's not. It's the pop. It's like the 2.5 minute killer pop songs. And Doja Cat's got a way with melody that's like absolutely nasty.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel that too. Oh, my mother just called. I'll have to call her back.
Yeah, there you go, man. I'm honestly a little surprised my mom hasn't called me. We've been on for 47 minutes now. That's typically enough time that I might be getting at least one from my mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I won't keep you much longer, I guess, because that kind of goes through all the points that I had. Is there anything else interesting you wanted to mention to your fans?
Nah, guys, I think the only thing I got to say is like Testarossa is coming out. It's coming out. Well, it's out now, I guess. Go check it out. It's out everywhere. Come follow me on Instagram at Sam Drysdale Music. Lots of live music and stuff being posted there on Reels and on TikTok. And please come and give the music a chance. Give it a listen. I would love to have you come out to a show. I try to respond. I'm really big on trying to respond to everyone that enters my DMs with any sort of positivity pertaining to music. So anyone that wants to follow along and come and check things out, send me a message. Let me know what you think. Even if you hate it, it's all good, man. We'll talk about it. But yeah, Testarossa is out now.
And we'll make sure we have all the proper links and everything we need so people can
Absolutely.
find you where they need to find you.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, that's about it for me. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I definitely appreciated it.
No, of course. Thank you very much, Tom.
And we will sign off and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Sounds good. Take
All right,
care, guys.
have a good one.